Stargate SG-1 was horror disguised as science fiction. These are the moments that crawled under your skin, haunted your dreams, and left you questioning what waits on the other side of the gate. Starting with the Goa'uld, the foundation of terror in Stargate SG-1 comes from its very first villains. The Goa'uld were body snatchers, tremendous serpentine beings crawling into the human body, depriving them of identity, of control, leaving only an empty shell under the control of an alien mind. It was a horror, a close-up intrusion. That first glimpse in Children of the Gods, the symbiote crawling up and into its victim, was nightmare fuel. The moment cemented the Goa'uld as one of sci-fi's most disturbing antagonists, tapping into our deepest fear of losing ourselves. And the terror didn't stop there. Their faithful soldiers, the Jaffa, had been corrupted into worshipping their masters and lifting the monsters within their own flesh. Then there followed such system lords as Baal, whose scenes of torture drove the show into gothic medieval savagery. The Goa'uld were a horror story wrapped in ancient myths and twisted divinity. But if the Goa'uld were terrifying, the Ori were worse. When the Ori arrived, SG-1 turned the dial from sci-fi horror to religious nightmare. Unlike the false gods of the Goa'uld, the Ori were ascended beings who truly wielded godlike power, and delighted in bending galaxies to their faith. Few scenes haunt fans, like Vala Mal Doran being burned alive, condemned as a heretic in a chilling echo of witch trials and religious purges. It was raw, visceral, and grounded in real-world horrors, making it almost unbearable to watch. The Ori sought to enslave souls. And then came the Replicators. If the Goa'uld played on the fear of possession, and the Ori preyed on faith, the Replicators tapped into another primal terror: infestation. Like an unstoppable swarm of technological locusts, they consumed everything in their path. Once they arrived, there was no safe space. What made them truly terrifying was their adaptability. Weapons turned against their wielders, entire civilizations devoured, and even the mighty Asgard left powerless. And when the Replicators evolved into human form, Replicator Carter, chief among them, the horror became personal. They could walk among you, wear the face of someone you trusted, and strike before you even realized you were already lost. But if there's one episode that made fans squirm in their seats, it's Bane, Season 2, Episode 10. The mission begins as a standard off-world mission, quickly mutates into a grotesque body horror nightmare. During a reconnaissance on a planet overrun by massive insect-like creatures, Teal'c, arguably the strongest and most unshakable member of SG-1, is stung. At first, it seems like just another alien injury, but his body becomes the breeding ground for something alien, something crawling and multiplying inside of him. The transformation is slow, messy, and deeply unsettling. Teal'c's skin erupts with lesions, his body convulses, and the audience is forced to imagine the smaller bugs writhing beneath the surface, waiting to claw their way out. For a warrior defined by strength, discipline, and control, the horror of becoming helpless against his own body is almost unbearable to watch. The episode is often likened to Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis, except here, the transformation is laced with insectoid fluids, convulsions, and the grotesque possibility of Teal'c bursting apart from the inside. Stargate's practical effects team didn't hold back either. The episode leaned into gross-out horror, and it worked. Viewers were left unsettled long after the credits rolled. If Bane was unsettling, the Scourge cranked the dial up with a new generation of nightmares. By Season 9, SG-1 had already battled gods, machines, and ascended beings. Still, this episode reminded everyone that sometimes the most horrifying monsters are the ones that crawl, skitter, and burrow where you can't see them. The central horror is simple, primal, and revolting. Bugs that grow inside the human body, devouring their host from the inside out. There's no diplomacy, no negotiation, no clever trick to escape. It's just an unrelenting biological terror that consumes flesh like it was nothing. For many viewers, these creatures crossed a line. Fans openly admitted they can't stand Bane or the Scourge, not because the episodes were bad, but because they were too effective. The bugs were creepy enough to make even insect lovers recoil. One fan's blunt reaction summed up the mood perfectly. Fuck those bugs and the Scourge. All my homies hate those bugs. But if there's one episode that still haunts fans long after the credits rolled, it's Legacy. It begins as an innocent discovery of Michello's inventions, quickly spirals into a waking nightmare. Daniel Jackson becomes the host. his mind turns against him. Hallucinations of dead Goa'uld lurk at the edges of his vision. Whispers claw at his sanity. Each scene pushes him further into madness until he's strapped down in a psych ward, his once brilliant mind flickering like a candle in the dark. And then the horror spreads. Carter, Fraser, even O'Neill, all of them infected, all of them teetering on the edge of the same abyss. Suddenly, it's the entire team unraveling before our eyes. Fans still talk about this one with a shiver. Some admit they can't even rewatch it. The grotesque hallucinations, the sense of helplessness, the sheer wrongness of the infection. It's the kind of episode that burrows under your skin and stays there. And if Legacy was pure hallucination-driven terror, Lifeboat is the suffocating nightmare of possession and identity collapse. Daniel Jackson's body becomes a prison for dozens of alien souls, downloaded minds from a doomed ship, desperate to survive. One moment, he's a frightened child screaming for his mother. The next, he's a sadistic tyrant barking orders with fire in his eyes. Then, a grieving husband, a frightened crew member, a broken soul, all bleeding through the same face. As his body begins to fail under the strain, the true horror reveals itself. Daniel is still in there, conscious but drowning, his own identity eroded by a cacophony of foreign voices clawing for dominance. It's the terror of being suffocated inside your own skin, of watching yourself become someone else again and again. But if Lifeboat was about the terror of too many voices trapped inside one body, Entity twisted that fear into something like, what if the body itself stopped belonging to you at all? In this season, for Nightmare, Samantha Carter becomes the host for a machine-born intelligence, turning her body into both a vessel and a prison. The thing that makes it so intensely disturbing is that it is a reminder that the Stargate, this marvel of a device of exploration, can just as well be a gateway to something intrusive, something that robs one of their free will. The episode leans into purest science fiction horror, the fear of identity not being anchored to flesh, the question of whether the person stepping back through the gate is truly the same consciousness that left, or simply a perfect clone wearing their face. That thought alone shakes the very foundation of SG-1's weekly journeys. And then there's the scene no fan forgets. O'Neill staring down the impossible choice of destroying Carter to save Earth. The image of a friend forced to raise a weapon against another, knowing it might be the only option, is pure psychological horror wrapped in loyalty and desperation. The Entity's mechanical voice only made it worse. You can't terminate this one. You will not terminate. Followed later by the chilling declaration, I am leaving. You are about to explode. Cold, emotionless, and final. But if the creeping dread of losing your mind or your autonomy wasn't enough, Stargate SG-1 also pushed into horror with Nirti's genetic experiments. Her cold, methodical manipulation of human DNA in pursuit of a perfect host or advanced being turned ordinary people into test subjects. The grotesque imagery of episodes such as Metamorphosis, Season 6, Episode 16, was strongly played up. The team meats are contorted by the technology of Nirti, mutations so vicious and agonizing that the victims would give anything to escape just one more second. It's an unflinching look at the nightmare of forced biological alteration, where science and cruelty intertwine. Unlike the more philosophical horror of possession or identity loss, Nirti's experiments were visceral, brutal, and physical. They weren't about questions of, who am I? But instead, what have I become? And how much pain can a body withstand before it breaks? It's this mingling of science fiction with body horror that gives SG-1 some of its most disturbing and unforgettable moments. If Nirti's experiments were a physical violation of the body, Revisions shows what happens when the mind itself becomes the battlefield. The society SG-1 encounters seems at first idyllic. Simple living, a close-knit community, all safely protected under a massive shield. But the truth is far more disturbing. The link, a neural interface connected to a central computer, doesn't just provide knowledge. It rewrites reality itself. Entire people vanish, erased from memory as if they never existed. Their absence explained away with implanted lies. The thing that makes Revisions so chilling is that it mirrors the same helplessness as Nirti's twisted mutations, but on a societal scale, one world suffered the horror of being broken from within the body, while this one suffers the horror of being unmade from within the mind. The result is the same existential dread. Your identity, your very selfhood, is no longer yours to control. Next, Beneath the Surface pushes the same nightmare further inward. Here, the horror is that your entire identity, your past, your purpose can be stolen and reprogrammed into servitude. In this frozen world, a city survives the ice age above by exploiting an underground working class, their true memories wiped clean, their suspicions dismissed as a sickness called night sickness. Furthermore, it is even more unsettling when solidarity and fairness are weaponized. These workers believe everyone is sharing the burden, when in reality, they're the only ones suffering. Kept docile, convinced their toil is for the greater good. Even SG-1 isn't spared. Their minds are scrubbed and rewritten, thrown into the same cycle of ignorance and labor. Just like in Beneath the Surface, where people's very memories are rewritten to keep them docile, Stargate SG-1 often used subtle forms of control as its most terrifying villain's weapons. And perhaps no example is more chilling than the Ashen. In the episodes 2010, Season 4, Episode 16, and 2001, Season 5, Episode 110, Earth allies with an advanced alien empire that promises to end disease and help humanity defeat the Goa'uld. But Samantha Carter makes a horrifying discovery. Birth rates have plummeted by 91% in just 2 years. The Ashen's miracle cures are also sterilizing the human race. It's not conquest with ships or armies. It's a slow, calculated genocide wrapped in the language of progress. A quiet extinction. The Ashen go as far as to defend it in cold blood, terming humanity unsustainable and worthless to invest in. That utilitarian logic makes their invasion even more unsettling. Much like the Ashen's quiet genocide by sterilization, The Scorched Earth, Season 3, Episode 9, probes the horror of extinction not through violence but through inevitability. SG-1 successfully relocates the Enkarans, a people requiring a specific atmosphere, to a new planet. Shortly after, a massive alien terraforming ship arrives, claiming the planet for the Gadmir, an extinct but highly advanced civilization whose last remnants are stored on the ship. Once the process has begun, it cannot be stopped, i.e., the destruction of the new home of the Enkarans and their population. This forces SG-1 into a no-win situation, having to weigh the potential future lives of an extinct, advanced civilization against the currently living Enkarans. The debate within the team, particularly Daniel's initial, seemingly callous argument for Gadmir's rebirth and Jack's conviction to defend the Enkarans, highlights the immense moral stakes. In contrast to the Ashen, who disguise their conquest in benevolent presence, the machine of the Gadmir is rudimentary and ruthless, and fully logical, but both instances demonstrate how survival under the pretext of progress can be used to justify annihilation.